Okay, so b'siyata d'shmaya, we're going to jump back into our limud of Likutei Moharan, of Sichos HaRan rather. Been learning a lot of Likutei Moharan with Rebbe lately, Baruch Hashem. But we are going to be learning Sichos HaRan, and we're also going to be learning some teachings from Likutei Moharan that are going to enable us to learn this piece from Sichos HaRan properly. The internet where I am is not great, to be honest. It should be better, but it's having some problems, and that's Yerushalayim for you. And so we might have to switch to a different option, but we'll try. We'll try with Hashem's help. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen. And here we can see Sichos HaRan Nun Aleph. We've had a bunch of shiurim already. And of course, as usual, we have the siyata d'shmaya of learning a Torah that's shaykh, that's relevant to the time of year where we are. And that's happened throughout the series from the beginning, where we were learning Purim stuff around Purim and Rosh Hashanah stuff about Rosh Hashanah. And here also, like we've mentioned a number of times already, this Sicha was told over by the Rebbe Shavuos night. And so obviously it has what to do with Shavuos. Our coming up to Shavuos, our ability to prepare for Shavuos is very much bound with all the lessons and all the teachings that Rabbeinu HaKadosh V'Hanayra, Rebbe Nachman ben Fega is giving over in this particular teaching from Sichos HaRan. And so we're going to go a little bit further. We had two pieces from Likutei Halachos that we didn't finish, but I felt that it was a little bit repetitive in nature, and I wanted to keep the freshness. And so I and Sham, happy to send you the notes if you want to look at those pieces on your own. But for now, we're going to go a little bit further in this teaching, Sichon and Aleph, with the help of the Master of the World and in the schus of all of us getting together, and in the schus of the tzaddik. So Rebbe Nachman continues. And he says, the world says, and this is the world that Rebbe Nachman had made reference to 2 sentences earlier when he said, don't allow this world to fool you, to lead you astray. And so Rebbe Nachman again mentions, the world says, don't need to seek gedolos, greatness, bigness. You can just settle. You can just suffice with what you have and what your circumstances are and sort of make do with that and be the best you that you can be within the set of spiritual circumstances that you find yourself in. Rebbe Nachman says, no, it's not enough. It's not enough to simply suffice. Just 1 second. It's not enough to simply suffice with the circumstances that you have, because you're only in this world for one time, hopefully, right? But at least in this consciousness, and we want to be masakin, we want to make tikkunim, and we want to grab hold of the lichatchila of what it is to be a Jew, and the extent possible of really appreciating the Torah Kedosha, Yiddishkeit, Torah, mitzvahs, consciousness, moichin. Says Rebbe Nachman, we got to spend a lot of time seeking godliness. And the way in which that manifests as a specific circumstance is levakesh ulechapes achat tzadik hagadol biyoser dafka. A person needs to go ahead and to seek the biggest tzaddik, the greatest tzaddik dafka, and not to suffice with the Rebbe that one has, which might be wonderful. And there's things that the Rebbe can give you that a tzaddik maybe can't give you in the way of more personal advice, direct advice, and so on and so forth. Obviously, it's best if that Rebbe could also be connected to the moyach of the tzaddik hayoser gadol, but there are different elements to a person's own personal family rav, right? People didn't go to, hopefully, to Rav Chaim Kanievsky's Hatzal for the same things that they needed really to go to their community rav, who understood the circumstance and understood the nature of their marital relationship and the nature of the children and the nature of the community and the schools and other elements, practically speaking, that were necessary to really understand what the proper guidance needed to be. It says the tzaddik that when it comes to spiritual striving, when it comes to spiritual vistas, to know what's possible, for that, says the Rebbe, you need to search for the greatest tzaddik. And the same way that a tzaddik may not be able to give you more specific advice, in a practical sense, at least on this worldly level with Ruach HaKodesh and everything else, but on a classical level, and you need the mayor, so to speak, to do something different than the president, right? L'havdil and elef alfei avdalos. The shul rav can't give me what the tzaddik hagadol biyoser dafka, the greatest tzaddik, who's different not by virtue necessarily of the way that he spends his time, but on a neshama level. The infusion of spirituality coming down through this particular tzaddik is something that's going to be able to lift you up in a way that is simply not possible otherwise. To try to seek this tzaddik. And not to suffice with just, the Yiddishkeit of wherever we are, but to have she'ifas, to believe that there's more out there. There's got to be more out there. And to be a mevakesh emes, means to constantly be seeking the aleph with which the word emes begins, aleph, mem, taf, wherever we are along the levels of the aleph base, to keep on being sho'ef, to keep on having a feeling of being lifted up, striving toward the aleph. That's what it means to be a mevakesh emes, to be mevakesh, the greatest possible framework that's going to enable us to truly soar. And this is already brought in the Svarim HaKadoshim of other tzaddikim, of Rebbe Nachman, particularly, which we're going to learn Be'ez Hashem inside. Dafka or daika achar tzaddik v'harebi hagadol biyoser. That we need to go ahead and seek out the greatest tzaddik, the tzaddik hadar, whose distinction is able to be experienced. It's not something where you have a sort of, my Rav's beard is longer than your Rav's beard, or is whiter than your tzaddik's beard. It's not such a thing. It means to say sample, go around, and to try to taste from this Torah and from that Torah and the other Torah. And every person has their own shirish neshama, and all the tzaddikim have a shirish neshama. They're all mushrish in what we refer to as the tzaddikei yichidei hadayris, certain extraordinary souls that came down to their generation and to their generational era, to change things, to transform the way that Yiddishkeit was experienced, before whom, or after whom rather, nothing would ever be the same. But I'll call upon him to experience, and he'll know when you encounter something that touches a place within you on a spiritual level, that on a qualitative level inspires your mind to brand new areas of spiritual exploration. At that level, a person knows, okay, this is the tzaddik hagadol biyoser. And within the getting close to that tzaddik, there's weiter seeking and searching deeper and deeper, to constantly be mechapes the tzaddik, to constantly seek to get to know the tzaddik v'yachol better and better, deeper and deeper, to delve deeper into his Torah, to delve deeper into his eitzes, right? Specifically in the case of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, to delve deeper into the stories, to become enveloped with the Rebbe's Torahs, as the Rebbe, our Rebbe, the tzaddik, whose Torah we're learning from now, who's teaching us this, and so obviously he has what to do with it. That goes without saying, obviously. But the tzaddik spoke so much about his Torah and what it's able to do to the Jewish mind. It gives a person a moyach gadol, and the omik of the stories and the sweetness, as we're going to learn about the tzaddik's ability to take the most tremendous perceptions on a spiritual level and be malbish them and clothe them in such a way that they become relevant to us on a story level, on a Torah level, to seek the tzaddik hagadol biyoser dafka. Again, besfarim shetzarich lechapes daika achar hatzadik v'harebi hagadol biyoser. That's part one. Part two, we're going to get back to Be'ez Hashem, but let's jump into Likutei Moharan Torah Lamed, where Rebbe Nachman speaks about this, and the tzaddik goes ahead and spells this out in a more specific way. Says the Heilige Rebbe Schosia Aleinu, Hasagas Elikus, perceptions of godliness, the expansion of the human mind, to be able to explore deeper levels of reality, deeper levels of the Torah, which is the fabric of reality, deeper levels of understanding his or her soul and the root soul that all of us share, Knesset Yisrael, deeper hasagas in who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. Hasagas alikus, to be able to perceive godliness, it's impossible to truly be able to attain those kinds of deep, deep, deep understandings without a tremendous amount of constriction. From a higher level and then to a lower level, and from that lower level further down, and so on and so forth, until we're able to grasp it with our human minds. Seichel Elyon, from what Rebbe Nachman refers to as Seichel Elyon, which is the idea as it stands, L'Seichel Tachton, to become enclosed within what's referred to as Seichel Tachton, which is a lower level and something that's graspable on the human functionality, or to the human functionality. And he says, this is what we see, that it's impossible to truly grasp the greatest seichel, the highest level of intellect, without it being enclosed in a lower level, in a level that's more relatable, in a level that's more possible for the human mind to be able to grasp. And the Rebbe says, simple mashal. Here he himself gives a mashal for giving mashal, right? Like the Malamid, one who teaches. When he wants to go ahead and explain a very, very deep idea, a broad idea to the student, he needs to give what we refer to as a mashal, a parable, and able to in order to enable this idea to settle within the mind of the student, who's not able to grasp the idea as it is, but will be able to understand it by virtue of mishalim, by virtue of parables. So that the student will be able to grasp it. First, he gives him hakdamas, and he's going to give him first. You have to know where to start. In order to build up to that grand idea, it's not going to work if I just throw you in the deep end. We have to start from the beginning and build up level to level to level and build up the foundational hasagas and perceptions that are necessary in order for that grand idea to make its explosive impact, which is natural to the person that already has the base levels of hakdamas. In order to then deliver the grand hasaga, the grand understanding, or the chiddush, shuhu seichel elyon begadol, which is a much higher level. So says the Rebbe, where are we going to get this? All of us have the union of seichel tachton, and so many of us, I'm sure not on this particular shiur, but so many of us, Yidden, certainly the whole world, but we remain our whole lives on the level of Seichel Katan B'Tachtan. This is all there is. We become convinced, like we said before, these are my circumstances, this is the nature of my experience, and this is my shul, and this is what learning is, and this is what davening is, and this is what lighting Shabbos neighbors are, or is, and this is what wearing tzitzis is, and tefillin, and Shabbos, and Yom Tiv, and Shavuos, and this is what these things are, and that's just the way that it is. But if a Jew is informed that there are myriad levels and levels and levels and levels, not just of understanding, and this is a key point, not just levels of understanding where it's like, okay, so first I learned pshat, and then I'm learning remez, and then I'm learning drush, and maybe I could learn a different pshat in this pasuk or in this bracha in Shemana Esrei, and it's essentially the same Shemana Esrei, but now I have like another pshat, and this is how we move throughout our lives, where we go from level to level to level, but in a linear sense, in a direct sense, in a length sense. It's not just that. But a Jew becomes informed, hopefully at a certain point along the journey, that entirely different perceptions of Yiddishkeit are available, where it's not just that it's the same Shemana Esrei, but I understand the bracha on a deeper level. or that it's the same Shabbos, but maybe I learned a new niggin to sing at the Shabbos table, or I have another Dvar Torah that I didn't already say in the last 5 years. It's that Shabbos itself becomes something else. It's mamish, the distinction between the Shabbos that used to be and the Shabbos that is greater in a certain sense than the distinction between Shabbos and no Shabbos. Because it's mamish a new Shabbos. It's mamish something else, something completely and entirely different. And that's where a lot of chevra sort of make the mistake around what Hasidus is and why it's necessary. A lot of people think that, it's just like everything else, right? So it's as if, it's a mashal that we've given recently. I'm not sure if on the shiur, but we'll use it again. Again, seichel elyon to seichel tachten, right? On a simple level, a person has a phone, and they have a bunch of different apps on the phone. And so Hasidus would be another app. And the question is, well, do we need it, right? Do we require the functionality that Hasidus app is lending to our phone? But that's mamish missing the boat of what Hasidus is. Not entirely. It's not that you open Svasemes, once a month to get some Torah to be able to say over by the Shabbos Suda. That's not what it is. It's not another app on the phone. Hasidus is completely and entirely stripping the phone of its operating system and installing a new operating system through which all of the other existing apps begin to function in an entirely different manner, on a different level, with a different level of speed and a different level, and you can develop the muscle with a different level of clarity and a different level of functionality and usability, if that's a word. So that's what we're speaking about here. The Rebbe and the Malamed Hagun that he's going to speak about in a minute. But a person who realizes that there's a tzaddik in the world, the Kadosh Baruch Hu put tzaddikim, gedolim ad l'ma'oid, to take Yidden and to turn them into Yidden plus, like mamish, in such a way that it's yoimam v'layla, a person that's mekusher to these tzaddik or these tzaddikim, and a person that's not mekusher, even though they're both fine Jews and they both get olam haba, but it's mamish a different operating system. It's not just a different set of apps. And do you need this app or don't you need this app? And again, like what's the nature of your Shabbos and what's the nature of davening and learning? It's mamish a different. Like we always use this word, consciousness, a different consciousness. It's a different OS. You see everything through different eyes, through a different lens. You approach it differently. And so this is big news. This is big news when a person starts to become aware of this. Wait a second, I can be more than I am. I can plug into Yiddishkeit on a deeper level than even those who I aspire to be like within this level of functionality. There's got to be something else. And a person is told that there is this capacity to mamish become a different kind of Yid, with a different kind of Hashem, so to speak, a different perception of Hashem, with a different kind of mitzvahs, and a different kind of limanat Torah, and a different kind of tefillah. So all of a sudden we open up an avenue in the person's life that mamish is infinite ad ein sof. And all of a sudden Yiddishkeit is not just something we do, but it becomes clear to us that this is the most urgent, pressing matter of our lives, on a daily level, on a weekly level, on a yearly level, on a decades level, on a life level, and then beyond this life, both in previous Gilgulim and beyond in Olam Haba. This is the most important thing. Shouldn't we invest in it? Shouldn't we throw ourselves into it? B'chol leib u'b'chol nefesh, to be mechapes, not mediocrity, but to be mechapes gadlus, the greatest gadlus sheyesh. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't that logical? And so this is the first step. A person has to become aware there is something else. And it might sound radical and it might sound silly. And to the people that are not in this hasaga, it sounds maybe even heretical. What are you even saying? But to the mevakesh emes, to the person that has a heart and mind open, that genuinely wants to grow close to Hashem and take seriously another Jew's plea and another Jew's cry, will open him or herself up and their hearts and their minds to say, listen, let's check it out. Let's see. Let's investigate the claim. And it is a claim, Baruch Hashem, of a great many of us on this shiur, and a great many of us b'chlal in the non-Hasidish community, people that are discovering mamash the deepest depth of our Torah that was revealed through Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, and all the Tzag, the Maggid of Mezurich, and the Balatanya, and the Berditchever, and the Maggid of Koznitz, and the Chozim Lublin, and all the Rebbe Meilech, the Rebbe Zusha, all the tzaddikim, Rebbe Nachman, Ben Fega, was b'chlal something else, right? It means to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us something. And those of us that have been privileged to connect to it understand that it's not another app. It's not another piece of furniture, to use another mashal, another seichel hatachton in our dining room, where we have a couch and we have a dining room table and chairs. And then the question is, do we need another fill in the blank? Right? Do we need another couch? Because we already have one. Right? And that would be chasidus, and it's just a question of do we need it or don't we need it? But to those of us that have been zoche to taste the seichel elyon, to those of us that have been able to upgrade our Yiddishkeit in a way that's almost inexpressible, the difference, we know that chasidus is not another piece of furniture. Chasidus is turning on the light in the dining room. It's just a different category. It's b'chalal, a different category that informs all of the pieces of furniture. Because you could already have everything and it's all beautiful. But if the light is off, you're going to trip over things, you're going to bang your foot, and you're going to fall on the floor, and it's just going to be miserable. You're not going to be able to use anything. Chasidus turns on the light. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Yehi Or, about 300 years ago, and the soul of the Baal Shem Tov came into the world. And so it's something else. So here we're using Seichel Tachton to give over the Seichel Elyon of why it's so important to be Mechapis, the Rebbe, and Melamed Hagadol B'Yoser. Because we only got one shot, and I'm not willing to just suffice with what I have in my klein little shtetl over here, wherever that little shtetl may be. And within our generation, I need to seek throughout the generations, particularly in our dar, where we have access to everything. There's no reason why not to go on a big teal, and not just to suffice, and not to say, this is it, this is my Rebbe, this is my Messiah, this is my Mahalach. Seek, be a seeker. Of course, stick within, obviously, the guidance that we're receiving on a pratyistic level without a question. But don't let that stop you from exploring, because it's yours. That is your Messiah, the Messiah of Yiddishkeit, of all the tzaddikim throughout the generations who live on our bookshelves, as we've said, who live online, who live on our phones. It's all open before us. And to survey the diaries and to open our hearts and realize that Chazal themselves told us first, Ein Adam Loimed Ela B'Makom Shel Libay Chafetz. Find that chelik of Torah where your lave is naturally chafetz, not because somebody convinces you that this is really what you want. No, what's natural, what flows, what attracts you, what lights you up, what fills you with elikus, what fills you with das, elyon. And then hold on to it and don't let go, because that will carry you to brand new hasagas, to a new consciousness, to a new OS, new operating system. So that it's the same Shabbos and the same tefillin and the same tzitzis and the same, all the different mitzvahs, but they're mamish different. They're mamish different. They're mamish different. And so here the Rebbe says again, everyone needs to seek out such a malamed, such a tzaddik. That what's the function of the tzaddik? That the tzaddik can deliver a seichel elyon and an awesomely elevated and gigantically broad seichel, which is and which are dainu hasogos elikus, godly perceptions, where the whole inyan of who Hashem is and what He wanted with this world and where He is in this world becomes increasingly clear because of these teachings. And that's different than a Gemara Rebbe. It's just different. And not chas v'shalom to say anything negative about a Gemara Rebbe. We need that, and it has its place, a very strong place as a means toward the end. But the Torah is broad, and the Torah contains, as we always say, nigla and nister, halacha and agada. And on the agadic level of needing to tap into the spiritual stream that's going to enliven our experience with learning halacha, keeping halacha, trying to break our minds over nigla, we need to seek out the greatest energy source of all. The greatest Rebbe Gadol Ma'od Ma'od. Like the Rebbe says, Ki tzarich lazeh, Rebbe Gadol Ma'od Ma'od. You need the biggest of the big. Sheyuchal lahasbir seichel gadol kazeh al yidei seichel hatachton k'niskal el, who will be able to go ahead and communicate to you almost unmentionable, unfathomable, ineffable, inexpressible levels of depth in a way that we can grasp it in our minds, even if we're not able to really express, and hopefully we shouldn't be able to express what we feel. Like Rebbe Nachman said in the very first teaching in Sichos HaRan, which we learned together, Sicha Aleph, Ki ani yadati ki gadol Hashem. A person can't even say it. You can't even tell your friend about it. All you can say is, trust me, I feel it. What you feel, I can't say. But I'm on fire and I'm in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I walk down the street and I have to just tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu every split second, I'm in love with you. I adore you. I'm obsessed with you. To become obsessed with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The tzaddik is able to give over these hasagas in a way that we can grasp it. So that even the simplest yid sits down with the Sipur Maisias, and he doesn't know all the oimek, and he doesn't know all the pnimius of every single detail and what this represents and what that represents, but he sits down with the story of the Chacham and the Tam, for example, which I can't encourage you highly enough to learn. Shem Zeichad have a chavrusa in these days on Sunday. And in the process of reading the story, life becomes super clear. Super clear. V'hiras hamaychin. And we get the feeling this is not just another mashal like any of the billions of mashalim from all the tzaddikim. This is something, there's something here that's just different. Sipur Maisias, it's just different. And a person sits down, to use this example, but it could be true about other tzaddikim. This is what I feel is true for me personally. But everybody has their own sharish neshama. The only thing that we're pushing here is to seek it, right? Is to be mavakesh and not to stop until you find it, right? But this nakuda of sitting down with a teaching from Likutei Moharan, and whether we understand every single detail, but hopefully if it's given over in a clear enough way, we stand up from the sefer and our heart is on fire, not once because it's a fluke thing that I happened to have sat down and I was on a spiritual high and I was very inspired, or maybe it was Yom Kippur by Ne'ilah and I opened the sefer very quickly before I started Ne'ilah and I read something, so of course it inspired me. I am telling you, Chaver, and you know it already. Many of you I've learned with in person. But there's one particular chavrusa that I'm thinking of, who's dafka not on this call, but it's true for any of you that I learn with in person and from all of our shiurim. I learned with this yid Monday morning. We just finished Likutei Moharan turn and base, and we're in the middle of Likutei Halachas now, and we take it slow and we go deep. We're learning Hilchas Arvis, Gimel. I mamish stand up from there. I can't even put into words what I feel. I just can't. My heart is mamish on fire. I can't explain. This is how I start my Mondays. Mondays, people can't get out of bed Monday. I can't get out of bed quickly enough on Monday. I can't get out of bed soon enough. My heart is engulfed in literal warmth, mamish warmth. And I walk out of shul and there's one word, I know I use it a lot, it's maybe overused. I just need to say Ashreinu. And I need to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that every yid should feel this. And then I spend the rest of my day trying to actualize that prayer and do my ishtadlus to making sure that as many people as possible can have access to this. And that's our responsibility if we feel this. Like I give over to you all the time. I'm not any different than you. And you're not any different from me. We're all regular Yidden, and we're trying to give over to others what we feel has enriched our lives. And that's our achrayus. You hear a good shiur, share it. You see something that touched you from this place, from that place, share it today. And I'll say it again, I've said it before, but it's important to remember, it's easier than ever to share. It's so easy. All of us are Rebbes today. If you have a phone and you have contacts on the phone and you have WhatsApp on the phone and you're on a group, or you can create a group, or you can dream up what you might be able to share and to be mashpia, you can start a group. It's the easiest thing. And the zechusim, we don't usually speak on this level, but it is true, right? Because we don't care. Who cares about zechusim? That's not why we're serving Hashem for zechusim. But it's true. The zechusim, it's so easy. You post something on your status, you never know who sees it. And Reb Shimon, I think, who's right now, Mom is driving along on the derech over here of the class trip with Rebbe Nachman. He's our driver in residence. So Reb Shimon can tell you that Mamish, right? There was one yid that once posted a link from LPI or something. What is it, 2 years ago or something now? And Reb Shimon clicked it, and that's it. Reb Shimon's been with us for 2 years, twice a week, every single shiur kemat. I learn with Reb Shimon in person, in person halavai when he's here in Eretz Yisrael, but we learn one-on-one. And it's all in the zechus of that one yid that posted a link one time. It's a pella. And I'm not talking about Reb Shimon's, the zechus of Reb Shimon's. I'm talking about what I gained from it, right? And the relationship that I gained and that we gained together in exploring the Torah of the Tzaddik. It's all in this yid zechus. It's a pella. What did he do? He moved his thumb. He moved his thumb 2 times. He clicked twice. It's a pella. And so this is something we need to be aware of. Share it, spread it. There's an achrayus. But going back to why I even went into this area is because of the feeling that I personally have over the Torah of this tzaddik. It's something else. I can't explain it to you. It doesn't make logical sense. It doesn't make sense. He was younger than most tzaddikim. He came at the end of time. There were tzaddikim that were in a certain sense, at least on paper, that were bigger than him. But for some reason, this tzaddik on a neshama level was zeiche to the gift of accessing sichlius gedolos ad lema'oid v'ma'oid lema'oid, mala, on a level of emes and pshitas and tmimus and exactness, to the point that today in psychology, they're now unearthing and discovering everything that Rebbe Nachman already said, that Rebbe Nachman unearthed from within our Torah, that checks on every single level, and to channel it down in the sweetest, simplest, clearest, most exalted way, through his Torahs and through his Sichos and through his Sipurei Maisias and through his Nigunim and through his poem shiur Na'im in the beginning of Likutei Moharan and through Reb Nassan, what Reb Nassan is, v'chule. It's just something else. And so again, it could be other people have other shirashim where they feel this. I don't know. But I know that this is what works for me, and I don't consider myself to be any different than anybody else here. And so there's a good chance that if we devote our time and we take it seriously and we want to be mevakshe emes, to make it our business to explore this world of Breslov, not just on the level of, the pamphlets that are printed, it's nice. I mean, bi'iyun, the omek bi'iyun. Nothing cliche, nothing gimmicky. All the classics. Rebbe Nachman says to be happy all day. Rebbe Nachman says there's no hope. There's no hope. There's always hope. There's no despair. All of this is true. Okay, but go past that. Rebbe Nachman said a little bit more than this, right? Maybe the emes, that's all he said, right? And everything else is a pirish. Okay, but we have to delve into it, mamish. There's so much to learn. There's so little time, and there's so much accessible. And so that's what Rebbe Nachman says, don't suffice with what you have. I'm sure everybody's Rosh Hashiva here is a Gevalt. I'm sure he is. And I'm sure that all the Gedolei Adar in our generation and previous generations are Kadosh V'Noira and Mamish Kadosh Elyon. I know that that's true. But the Ariyah Kadosh already revealed through Chaim Vital that every generation has one tzaddik that's a nitzitz of a tzaddik from way earlier. Every tzaddik has the tzaddik Yisod Olam. The Gemara already tells us about this in a number of places. Tzaddik Echad, Amud Echad Yesh Ba'olam, the tzaddik Shemai, Kol Olam Kuloi, Lenivra Ela, but Seves Lazeh, Mamish, everything revolves around this one tzaddik. And so it behooves us to be mechapis that tzaddik, to search for that tzaddik, not to let go and not to allow any obstacle get in our way from discovering an emes that can radically improve our lives on every level, spiritually, intellectually, physically, emotionally, because physical is bound on the emotional level. And the cloud turn us into people that are beacons of godliness. And so that's very important. So that's what the Rebbe is saying over here. And believe it or not, says the Rebbe, it's mevur like this. Because the more that a person is small and far from Hashem and struggling and limited, he needs the biggest Rebbe of all, which is counterintuitive because you'd think, okay, he's mamish so far that all he needs is like the smallest dibor from whatever it is on the most pshat level and one pasuk and that's it, and you'll turn him on to Yiddishkeit, right? Because he was so far, he had nothing, so you just give him a little drop. Says the Rebbe, no, it doesn't work like this. The further a person is, the further the generations are, Yeridas Hadaris, at least on a certain level, he needs the Rebbe Gadol B'Yoser, the greatest neshama of all time, the greatest gilui of Torah that was ever brought into the world, mamish the highest. When we find this, Yisrael, when I'm Yisrael, we're on such a small madriga. When I'm Yisrael, we're in Mitzrayim, they were sunk down to the deepest levels of Tumah, where the tzaddikim say that today we've surpassed that, and now we're mamish in Nun Shari Tumah. Over there we were in the 59th, and here we're mamish in the deepest pit, and we need the deepest gilui to pull us out. So you would think that maybe the Yidden in Mitzrayim needed, some rabbi from a local community shul, and that would have been enough because they were so desperate. But he says no. They needed Moshe. And all the really great tzaddikim that we refer to as the Yechidei Hadairos, they are all Moshe Rabbeinu. Like the pasuk says, what was will again be. The Rosh Hashanah of Ma'ashahayahu is Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama is split into a number of chalakim. The nefesh of Moshe, the ruach of Moshe, the neshama of Moshe, the chai of Moshe, the yechid of Moshe. And those chalakim again emerge within different tzaddikim throughout history to deliver deeper and deeper levels of Torah and deeper levels of experience. And so everybody knows that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is a nitza to Moshe Rabbeinu, Lesman the Polik. Everybody knows that. Because Moshe Rabbeinu delivered the Nigla of Torah, and Rajbi delivered the Nister of Torah. And then throughout history, there were tzaddikim, like we described before, after whom nothing would be the same, nothing. Whose Torah would rip throughout Am Yisrael and change things, first subtly, and then on a more overt level. And this is what you find. There were certain tzaddikim that just were game changers. Nothing before had been said like what they revealed, and nothing afterwards came close. It was just something else in a different category, in a different league. Rabbi's Banos Asu Chayil, the Medrash says, is a reference to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It's the Avos. But then Va'at Alis Al Kulana. But then there's a level of the tzaddik that's Va'at Alis Al Kulana, says the Medrash, the Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu is At Alis Al Kulana. Is that being disrespectful to the Avos HaKadoshim? Chas v'shalom. Rabbi's Banos Asu Chayil. We have no asaga in the Avos HaKadoshim. But there are different tafkidim, there are different jobs and different tasks that different gedolim have. And this one neshama, this transgenerational neshama, which we talked about before in our Likutei Moharan Torahs, keeps on showing up in a way of ata'olis al kulana, to taka rise to the highest place and to bring down the deepest hasagas in the clearest, most down-to-earth, practical, avoida, etza, giluyim kind of way to change Yiddishkeit forever. He called Mashu Katan Merucha Yoser, because the Rebbe says the more small someone may be and the more distant he may be, Tzarech Malamid Gadol Yoser. He needs the greatest Rebbe, Shia Uman Kazeh. Uman, right? Shia Halavai. And bless us all, Be'ez Hashem, we should be zeicha to be there this Rosh Hashanah, and an even bigger bracha is that we should be all in Yerushalayim together with the Rebbe, Be'ez Hashem, and all the tzaddikim and adairos, and all the tzaddikim. But Shia Uman Kazeh, that this tzaddik should be such a craftsman. It's a craft. It's a very, very deep craft. You get the feeling when you're learning Likutei Moharan properly that the Rebbe is an architect. He's mamish building buildings. They're not physical buildings. They're buildings in hasaga. First laying one foundation and building on top of that. And then another connection, like Ernustin describes in Akdama to Likutei Moharan. And then, there's a window in this room, and that leads to another room. And this room has two windows. And each of those windows lead to other rooms, and then a hall, and then a staircase. And before you know it, the Rebbe built a gigantic palace of hasagas elukus, to which nothing is comparable. Kaleidoscopic hasagas that are just different. They're just different. Mamish different. Not of the same category of other kinds of Torah. Something else. Mamish something else. So you should be a craftsman. To be able to increase our perception in a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and perception in the Chelik Elokam that we have within, and perception in the Torah that's supposed to bring us close to our Kadosh Baruch Hu, and serve as the interface where we can achieve Devekus with Hashem. To the most distant person, and of course, the Rebbe uses a mashal here again. Because the sicker the patient, he needs the greatest doctor. And that's what the tzaddik is. He's a doctor. Mamish, a doctor, a soul doctor. And what you get from the mechanic is not going to help for an illness. And what you get at college is not going to help for your illness. There's two different things. On the one hand, we need education, and that's beautiful. So there's so many different shiurim to help us get educated in all the different areas of Torah. But then there's the area of Torah that Chazal say, Chosh b'roisha yasik b'Torah. There's an element of refuah, of a sam chayim. And for that, you need the pharmacy of Torah. For that, you need a different kind of message and a different level of revelation that's able to heal what we feel inside is unable to be taken care of, and all the different shops and all the different services that the Torah may offer. There's something different, there's something broader, there's something deeper that's going to be able to speak directly to what I'm struggling with, and to recontextualize, and to gift me with a new way of looking at things, to reframe what this thing is called Yiddishkeit, to reframe what this thing is called the Sichos HaRan, to reframe what challenges are, what Emunah is, who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, what the Torah is, what Yiddishkeit is, what history is, what Eretz Yisrael is, what tzaddikim are, what Yerushalayim is, v'chule, v'chule. For that, I need medicine, I need a roife, I need a doctor. And if I'm so sick, because I'm so struggling and I'm so challenged, and it's not working for me to continue to put myself through college, kiviyachol, in that level of Torah, it's just not doing it for me. And it's making my life more miserable, and it's making me more confused, and I don't feel anything. Give me hergish, give me regesh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu built a pharmacy into the Torah, and that pharmacy is called Agada. And the tzaddikim that are working through Agadas of Torah to demonstrate the Pnimius foundations, and then to show how the Pnimius is able to turn into the simple halachas as well on every level. That's the place where we get healed. Because Karav Hashem l'nishbirei leiv, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is close to those who are brokenhearted, and there's an area of Torah that speaks to the heart. And Chazal say, if a person wants to learn the Torah of the heart, that's related to tefillah, because tefillah is avodah shebalev. That's related to dvekus, to emunah, both of which are synonymous with tefillah, because tefillah means to become bound to Hashem. And the synonym of emunah, as translated by the Targum Onkelos on the words by Yad of Emunah, that Moshe Rabbeinu's hands were Emunah, says the Targum, they were spread in prayer. So prayer is Emunah, and prayer is leiv, is heart. There's an area of Torah for that, and it's called Agada, because Chazal say that Agada is called this title because it's Nagad the leiv. It draws the heart, and it's able to fill our heart with something our mind could never, ever heal. A different kind of medicine, a different kind of awareness, a different kind of comfort. It's just something else. And to ignore an entire chelik of Torah, to belittle its influence, is very, very detrimental to the balance and the health that's necessary in order for our nation to thrive. Incredibly dangerous, incredibly unbalanced and listed to one end. And we develop a consciousness that's very limited. And we develop a perspective on different things, different issues that arise, different areas of life that's extremely shallow, that's extremely limited. Instead of being able to see things on a deeper level, and then to channel that through the realism of this world, which is what halacha is supposed to do. It grounds us. But by the same token, that shouldn't prevent us from being aware of the deeper and the inner dimension. That's going to play a role in how we educate. It's going to play a role in how we parent. It's going to play a role in how we perceive our position vis-a-vis our spouse, and what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a wife. that's going to change the relationship that we have with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, not in a quantitative level where here's another thing, and here's another avodah, and here's another minhag that you can take on, and here's another, no. On a qualitative level, like we said, it's scraping the entire hardware and installing a new operating system. Bichlal. It's just something else. We need a Torah that's going to heal us. We need a Torah that's Eitz Chayim Hi, that's mamish, filled with life. Lamachazikim, a Torah we could hold on to. When we find ourselves, the Lev Yam, in the deepest part of the ocean, sinking, mamish sinking. And we need something to hold on to. We need something to provide us clarity. And for that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us Agada, and He gave us tzaddikim that are revealing and using Agada and the Mishalim of Chazal and the Mamarim of Chazal to transmit to us the deepest perceptions of Elokus. So the sicker the patient, the greater the surgeon we need. Al Kain, therefore, Ein Laha'adam Loimar, let a person not say, what is it? What's this whole hakarai? What's the big deal? Let me just go ahead and find a nice good Jew, and I'll sit with him, and he'll teach me, and we'll have kiddush together and eat herring together on Shabbos day, and he'll be the Rav and I'll be the congregant. What's the big deal? Why not? Why not? Even though we know and everybody knows he's not the tzaddik hadar, but who cares? This is who I'm connected with. If I would be like him, that would be enough for me. Says the Rebbe, no, that's a big mistake. That's a big mistake. Because today in our generation, more so than ever, we have access today to everything. Mamish to everything. And today, I don't know of any person that says, listen, I have my family physician, and if I have something going on in the family, I'll go to him. And what he says, that's what we'll do. There's not one person in the right mind who's not. First of all, we probably shouldn't, but we're Google searching every ailment that comes up, and most of them tell us that we're terminally sick. That's another thing, right? But who doesn't go for a second opinion today? Who doesn't go for a second opinion? Who suffices on any level with what the local person tells you? You want to know what's the standard, what's the world saying, what are other opinions? Today, there's so many sources of MS, and we try to go ahead and to be malakit from all of them in order to basically get perspective on what the truth might be. But when it comes to Yiddishkeit, we just settle because it doesn't really mean that much to us, and we don't consider it to be the foundation of living. And so it's okay, Yotzigavon. Says the Rebbe, no. Al Yoimar came. Don't make that mistake. Ki adarabba. The opposite is true. If a person taka knows that he's far, and this is already a madrega, one of the greatest hasagas that the tzaddik gives a person is how lowly we are in relation to what's possible. But most of us never have access to what's possible, and so we just, we don't even know like how much of a joke it is, the Yiddishkeit that we're, living in terms of what's expected of us. And again, each of us on our level, and we're all trying, and we're going to get schar, and it's all beautiful, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has nachas ruach from every little thing. It's not to say that it's nothing, chas v'shalom. But if we don't have access to that gilui, so then it's already a madrega to know that mamish, we need help. That's already a madrega. That's already a hasaga. But if a person does feel that way, the goydel richuka feels so distant, that I know for myself how distant I am from living a life where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is murgash, where he's felt and he could be perceived and experienced, and to taka live with Hashem, and not just to lip service emunah, but to have emunah. And not just, in moments where, okay, I am mammon in Hashem, but that emunah is the baseline operating system that impacts every single decision, that impacts every single reaction, that impacts every single thing we say, to whom we say it, about what. That mamash shifts the entire locus of our lives and places it within Hashem so that everything centers around Him. If we feel this way, that we're so distinct and that there's so much more that we can achieve. Every person that knows that this is just not where it's at. There's got to be more to this than this. And because I care about Yiddishkeit, I'm not sufficing. And that's already, again, a big mandrega because plenty of people suffice and plenty of people are fine with it. But to say, no, there's more. I know there's got to be more. HaKadosh Baruch Hu came down on Har Sinai and gave us the whole entire Torah for more than just this. There's got to be something else. There's got to be something deeper. Such a person needs to realize in that moment, Daika, a person then needs to set out on a lifelong journey oftentimes, because it never ends. You get deeper and deeper and deeper into the tzaddik that you find, right? You constantly be mechapes the tzaddik, like Rebbe speaks about, even after you found him already. And there was nobody who found his tzaddik, so to speak, more than Rebbe, right? Mamash, it was his sharish neshama. He let go of everything he knew until that point. Can you imagine if Rebbe would have sufficed with the quote-unquote Messiah that he got without going on a spiritual search? How many tens of thousands of Yidden that mamash were Yidden because of Rebbe Nassan's, relating Rebbe Nachman's Torah would be completely orphaned of their own souls had Rebbe Nassan did that. Rebbe Nassan was a mevakesh, and it wasn't easy for him. He had to battle terribly. Tremendous suffering he experienced, but he did not care because he realized that we're in this world for one reason only, and that is to try to go ahead and to achieve shleimus by revealing our chelik elikami mal in relation to its dveikus with HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the Torah and the mitzvahs and through all the different avenues of spiritual expression within our holy Torah. Reb Nassan fought for that, and we are the beneficiaries of that. Such a person, the biggest soul doctor, mamash, the biggest pharmacy there is, who's able to deliver the greatest hasagas of Elokus. To this neshama that's revealing these Torahs in the world, that's bringing down the deepest hasagas and the most glorious perceptions and the deepest levels of understanding and health and balance and clarity and guidance and eitzes and osher, real wealth, real treasures. And I would add on Nakuda here, that if the person is the kind of person that feels that they're lacking, they are then shiur to the greatest tzaddik. That's how they know that they're shiur. Because to the people that they don't even feel it at all, so it's like, okay, whatever, whatever. It's going to be much harder to be able to really connect to that tzaddik. Because counterintuitively, olam hafach re'isi, it's the broken-hearted Jews. It's the Yidden that mamash feel and taste their own brokenness. Those Yidden that know that there's got to be something more, and that realize how far they are kli, or they are ready vessels. He is, such a person is a kli muchan, is a mamash, a ready vessel to absorb the light of the greatest hasagas of Elokus that are coming down through the tzaddik and the Rebbe hagadol ma'od. Kikol mashu katan biyoser, the smaller the person feels, tzarech malamed gadol biyoser. Such a person needs to seek the greatest tzaddik. And that's what the Rebbe says back in Sichos HaRan, this Torah that we're learning here. We'll just read it again. The world says because they're so busy with the world. So what do we care about Yiddishkeit? Like, forget it. It's just okay. There's life, and when it comes to a house, nobody settles for like a one-bedroom apartment. Like, who cares? It's just a one-bedroom apartment. It's fine. This is life. No, people are mevakish gedolos begashmias, right? Beruchnias, not so much. The Ruchnias, everybody has tainas. Why are you going to Uman? Why are you going to Meron Falag Ba'omer? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? It's not enough for you to just sit in your base medrash and do your thing. And the answer is that, what do you mean? My neshama needs something so big. It's yearning for something so broad and so deep and so exalted that's shaykh to me because I'm sick, and that's what heals me. It's just what heals me. So Beruchnias, we're mavakish gedolos, we're mavakshe emes. But ani oimer, says the Rebbe, and I say, should sarich dafka levakish gedolos, levakish ulechapes, acharat sadik hagodol biyoser dafka, to seek this out. Don't let go. Hold on to it. Commit yourself to it. Feel it, and forge a relationship with that tzaddik. And if it's Rabbi Nachman for you, it appears to be that way for many, many people. But don't stop searching. Sample everything. Move beyond the boundaries of the circumstantial nature of your position within a specific community or within a certain household, and realize this is the end of Dairis. This is the end. This is the final generation. We have no time to stick within. No, but this is where I come from. This is what we do, and this is what we don't do. And in the meantime, everybody dies, right? It's not like that. It's not like that. If a person's desperate, and we all are desperate, and we have to realize that we're mamish desperate, we need to grab onto whatever we can take hold of. We have access to everything. We're the nation of Nalaktim, of synthesizers, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu implanted within this door, tzaddikim yisoidei olam, who are able to download into the hardware of our minds and our hearts a new operating system to enable us to engage with a Yiddishkeit that's lichtig, that's vibrant, that's derachah darchin noyam, b'chol nesivasar shalom, that's eitz chayim hil namachazikim ba, that's full of life, va'atem hadveikim b'Hashem alekeichem, chayim kulchem ayoyim, mamish life, to live the chayim toivim of pshitas and tmimus and amkus, mamish, to live already on the level of Olam Haba, even while in this world. We should be zeicha to it. We should be zeicha to, first of all, taste our lack. We should be zeicha then to be mavakshim, to believe that such a thing is possible, to find tzaddikim, to find broad perceptions. And once we find it, to hold on it, to never let go. And then to try to spread it to other people, to try to, not out of like this like missionizing, sort of like I need everybody to, it's out of rachmanas, because you know what it did for you. And so wouldn't you want to go ahead and to gift that to somebody else? Have you talmidav shel Aaron, oyev shalom, v'roidev shalom, oyev es habriyos, you love another yid, u'mekarva matayra. So you want for them what you've been zocha to. There's no other way, and we're all in this together, and there are only a few of us, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is begging our neshamas to do what we can to be megala, the aura of the tzaddikim in the world, so that other yidden can similarly draw close and benefit from the light of Mashiach that's already shining in our very generation. So Ashreinu Matayv Chalkeinu, that we're close to this tzaddik, that we're learning from his Torah together. Thank you all for joining, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless us mamish to seek and to find, and to then seek again and to find again, and continue on this glorious eternal path of coming close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the teachings of the tzaddikim, b'siyata d'shmaya, with Hashem's help. So thank you all for joining. I appreciate it, and I wish everybody the most wonderful rest of your week. Be'ezer Hashem, we're going to have another Shavuos shiur on Thursday night, Be'ezer Hashem, unless something comes up, but hopefully it's in the calendar, it's in the schedule, and I look forward to it. So thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you enjoyed as well. And remember to share if it touched you, and if you feel that it's something that might be shiur to anybody that you think of. That's part of our obligation, Be'ezer Hashem, not just my shiur and share my shiur. Don't share my shiur. Share whatever moves you from whoever it is, from whichever tzaddik. But that's our achrayus. If something touches you, share it forward. You never ever know what kind of impact you can have in a very, very easy way. You never ever know. Okay, Be'ezer Hashem. Thank you guys so much again. Wishing you the most wonderful rest of your day, night, and an awesome rest of your week. We'll see you Thursday night. B'siyata d'shmaya. Thank you, Chevra. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Ashreinu mamish. Thank you.